Episode 27. Stop trying to blend in. This episode will be covering your environment, your sphere of influence, mindset shift, facing the music, and longevity. Now, at the time of this recording, we'll be naming it Stop Trying to Blend In, as I only have a couple topics here written down. I didn't have much time to prepare. So, for the most part, I'll just be going right off the dome here, covering, what I just mentioned. And in doing so, I believe it'll also help not being as repetitive as I am in the past. I know even with the different titles of these episodes, I tend to go over kind of the same topics or just dive into the same sort of concepts time and time again, because they are pretty, important. A lot of the things like your sphere of influence, for example, has been covered countless times throughout the duration of all my episodes collectively. But like I said, it's definitely applicable in just about any circumstance or any video I'll ever cover. And it's just tough, again, because as I've mentioned in the past, and those of you could probably make the assumption for yourself, it is tough making episodes where I'm just talking by myself to myself for anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. That's why, obviously, at a certain point, sooner rather than later, hopefully, I'd like to have other guests in this episode, on this podcast, where we can kind of bounce ideas off each other, go back and forth, and it makes it a lot easier. But for the time being, I'm trying to keep these things as fresh, as new as possible, not trying to cover this exact same topics every single time. It's tough, but hopefully with not having as much prepared here that go off the dome, it'll, spark something new. But anyways, jumping right into it. Your environment. So between this and sphere of influence, I do have a couple things jotted down. So I wasn't lying to you guys. I'm going to read off what I have here and elaborate a little bit as well. So your environment. Depending upon the few outliers like work and school, I believe we have complete control over our chosen environment. Too often we use things like boredom and fear of isolation to become excuses for trying to blend in, usually in places we don't normally find ourselves. For example, I spent the 4th of July down the shore with some buddies at a couple different bars. Now, I, being someone who doesn't exactly drink, can see things for how they truly are without the mental fog that alcohol provides. All I saw were people consuming an incomprehensible amount of alcohol, leading to distorted behavior and terrible decisions. Mind you, I was only there for a few hours, and with that, as well as I did not have written down here, it was a lot more than people consuming just alcohol, things that will create mental fog and other sorts of consumption that were just definitely foreign to me. But it's just, man. The reason I bring up the story is because I found myself taking part in an activity where I know I don't belong, solely because the festive, patriotic vibe the Jersey Shore provides each year is quite exhilarating during Memorial Day weekend and the 4th of July. Therefore, staying home during a time as such can create the feeling of FOMO, as I'm sure all of you know, but for those of you who don't, FOMO stands for the fear of missing out, something we've all experienced at one point or another, and FOMO is something I've rid from my life following high school. Moral of the story, don't allow your emotions to dictate your decisions, especially at such a silly level like experiencing FOMO. Your environment plays a vital role in your thoughts and actions, whether you realize it or not. Now, obviously, that goes without saying. Everything's pretty straightforward here, but what I experienced on the shore, as I'm sure all of you at some point or another have experienced, maybe not, depending on the type of audience. If you guys are from Jersey as well, the Jersey Shore bars and vibe and whatnot is definitely interesting. It's just, I find a lot of it to be sad. Again, I'm not judging anyone who does it. I know it's how it comes across. You do you. I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm not saying I know right, you don't know right, whatever, right from wrong, but it's just sad in my opinion. Seeing the extremes that people are willing to take, things that the way people act to impress others, and all the things people do to kind of numb their reality and not want to face the music. It's kind of crazy to me. But, everyone has different ways of coping, and who am I to say you're right or wrong? Now, jumping into sphere of influence, for those of you who have been following from the beginning, you may realize this topic usually gets brought up almost every episode. And why is that? Well, because it is applicable, as I previously mentioned, to just about anything I'll ever cover on this podcast. I personally have dwindled down my circle to a very small number. In doing so, I've experienced true growth in not having to put on a separate persona, depending upon the group. It can become exhausting, even irritable, to have to entertain ideas seeming just so, maybe childish is the word. It's kind of where my notes end here, but I just don't, want to be targeting a certain audience, certain demographic here, people, especially those who are near and dear to me, even though I've kind of drifted away regarding how much time I actually spend with them, especially when it comes to going out and doing sort of quote-unquote fun activities. But, it's just for the greater good. Surrounding yourself with people that are genuinely just not on the same playing field. And I'm not saying skill wise. I'm not saying like I'm ahead or they're behind or anything like that. It's just different. It's just like comparing apples to oranges. It just doesn't make sense. Ridding yourself of those people, at least limiting your contact with them. Even if they're people you consider very near and dear to you, it's for the greater good and it's not personal. That's the life people want to live. You should not constantly surround yourself with it because as tough and mentally callous as you may seem or as I may think I am, you still find yourself acting in ways you shouldn't, thinking and saying things you shouldn't with due time because it kind of just wears off on you. And I believe anybody could second that, and with that, I want to jump into number 3 here, mindset shift, because that kind of it's like a snowball effect, essentially. It starts with, wanting to just step away from the craziness, step away from what people are pursuing and following because it's not right for you, whether it's in accordance with the Word of God that you're doing this or you genuinely just want to be better or whatever. I'll just leave it at that. But, it kind of snowballs from changing the sphere of influence. Which goes hand in hand as well with your environment and kind of stepping away from those environments, changing the people you're around constantly and in contact with every day. And then that turns to a mindset shift of, hopefully not creating a chip on your shoulder where like, okay, I have to do this to prove I'm better to them because that will not get you very far. And that just creates anger and hatred and then resentment towards those people who, even though they're living a different life than you, maybe they never did anything wrong to you. So you got to just, you don't want to turn into resentment or anger or some sort of quote unquote beef. That's just unnecessary. But definitely wanting to pursue the right things and giving it your everything. That's what I mean by mindset shift. Don't take it out on people just because you guys aren't on the same playing field. Again, playing field meaning apples and oranges, just not the pursuit of the same thing. Different things sit at the throne of your hearts and control dictate your actions and thoughts. It's fine. You can't hate these people just because of that, right? So I know naturally people, they want to step away and do their own pursuit, go all in on themselves, which is absolutely great. But just leave out the part where you start to resent people and have anger towards people for things that just don't make sense, Just because you're not in the pursuit of the same thing doesn't mean you have to build up that level of resentment. Which is, again, what I mean by mindset shift. And I think, excuse me, sorry, just always dog hair flying around, so I get it stuck on the mic just because the material of the mic. And what I've learned with this mindset shift here, it's, you definitely mature, earlier than expected, or than most people your age. I do attribute the vast majority of that to my faith. Being 22 years old, I feel like I'm at a place now where, a lot of my friends, whether they're just mutual or, just general acquaintances from around the gym or around town or whatnot, tend to be older. And the reason being for that is not because I'm saying I'm too old or too mature for people my age, but just because the older demographic seem to be, who I could relate to most. I love the idea of fun, exhilarating times and whatnot, but I also love the idea of at some point down the road slowing down, finding the right one for myself, and starting a family. But that's that's things people don't really think about to their mid to late 20s, sometimes even later. Because they don't want to face the music, they want to live this childish lifestyle for way too long. And next thing you know, reality slapping you in the face, and it's like, okay, not that it's ever too late to start a family. Not scientifically speaking, there's always ways, but you can always find the right one, the one the Lord has called to you, and miracles can always happen. Things can always be done, to achieve what your goals are within a family. But the reason I even bring all this stuff up again is just because, not that I'm trying to say I want to be, a dad already and slow down and just live, on the outskirts of town and a little simple lifestyle, which is nothing wrong with that. But I feel like I was born to be in the pursuit of some things much greater. I feel like it's always just been on my heart, even in the commitment and pursuit of Christ, that's never slipped away. One could argue maybe I've never surrendered the pursuit of something greater, which I actually have. I know for a point in time I genuinely said, Lord, if your will for me, your desire for me, when I was at a really low point, is to literally just live a very simple lifestyle and not have much impact on others and just kind of do my own thing, at a very, very simple level, then so be it. And I actually surrendered that for a while. But the desire just never really left. It always came back, and not saying that, well, I'm sorry, let me rephrase. That desire is still there, and I believe it's for greater good. I believe it's for a lot of great reasons. But a lot of the intent has changed from prior to committing to this faith. Like, it used to be a chip on my shoulder wanting, a Lamborghini at 19 and being filthy rich at such a young age where I could flex on other people and have all the women in the world go clubbing and all these stupid things I was never even into, by the way, like clubbing or drinking, smoking. Never in my life I ever even touched a drug. Um, but it's just like the intention completely changes. Incredible how the Lord can work, and take that same hunger you have for quote unquote greatness, whatever you define it as, and success of the world as well as eternity. It can be shifted. So I still have that pursuit, that hunger to want to do well, to be financially free, to provide for my family, both present and future, and set up the people around me, provide opportunity, and just change lives. With the Lord kind of guiding me, directing me. That's there. That's what he turned that hunger, that ambition into, which is incredible, and not that selfish, just self-glorifying dream that I always had. So it's like almost like a double mindset shift from wanting to change your environment and sphere of influence into keeping that ambition and that hunger, but then changing that ambition and hunger, or allowing the Lord to change that, I should say, into something much greater, to do something much far, far greater with that ambition. And it's incredible to witness. It goes by so fast you don't even realize it when it's happening, but when it's all said and done, it's really cool. Definitely really cool. But anyways, moving forward, facing the music. What I mean by facing the music, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. It's just another term for, kind of facing reality. Coming to terms with your life and all the decisions you've made and where you're at now. Not that you should let the past dictate your decisions, but allow them to maybe shape your future. Depending upon what age you are and how far you are in this life. Sometimes you really got to have a reality check, and I'm not saying this has to be done now. I don't know who you are, your circumstances. Oh, excuse me. Man, coffee just does nothing for me anymore. But anyways, you've really just got to start facing the music. The excuse of going to college and being broke after, getting a job you hate to pursue for the long run. Talk about how much you hate it, live for the weekends just to numb your reality, and then retire in your early 60s or mid to late 60s, whatever it is. At this point, I'd say mid to late 60s. It just keeps changing, going up and up and up. But, it's a horrifying thought in my mind. I can't tell anybody what to do. I just know I never in a million years would do that. Again, I'm obviously, as you can probably tell, I'm not one who's in favor of school. I absolutely hate the idea of it, everything about it. I think it just makes people comfortable for the most part. I think other than putting you in debt and, not allowing you to face reality until you're, 23 years old sometimes, or even later, it's crazy. It's crazy. And the whole cycle you're put through to not even retire, not be able to retire until you're mid to late 60s, if you're even blessed to see that age. It's just like a rat race. It's like slavery almost, even to the point where if you're making a good, a decent paycheck, to be doing that for so long, you can't put a price on peace, and there's ways to obtain that as well without it. But, I also like to think that if you're one who's just not a creative thinker, to try and create a successful, again, whatever you define that as, like a successful life, a life of ambition and pursuit of something far greater than yourself. If you want to find that, without the route of school, you have to be creative. You have to be willing to take risks. You can't be afraid to fail. You never can give up. It's tough. It's cutthroat. It's absolutely cutthroat. You go to school, you get security and decent pay depending on what it is you do for the long run. You don't go to school. It's tough, man. It's tough, but it is worth it 1,000 times over, and I would never change it for the world. It took me about 3 years to find my way, maybe even a little long. Yeah, something like that, like 3.5 years really, to figure it all out after trying and failing so many things. But I would never change that process for the world. That's what built my faith, who made me who I am, made me appreciate things, learn more about the world, than reading out of a textbook, and I don't want to make this sound biased either, like I just completely hate, like obviously I'm in a complete opposition to the idea of school, but to those of you who are in school, I'm not saying you're bad or stupid for doing it. Absolutely not. If you really feel you have no entrepreneurial type of personality, you have no sense of creativity, and you genuinely just want to follow an order and be told to do because that's what you need, at least for the time being, then you know what? Then maybe you have to. I don't know, but also things like you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or a cop, whatever. I'm not saying to rewrite the script and just not go to school and find some crazy way to be a doctor without a PhD. I think that's insane. But it's just, even with being a doctor, I know it's so important to take all those years of school to understand what's for you, and I'm sorry, to understand how to do the job, and I guess understand what's for you as well, because it's a lot of schooling, and you'll understand if that's your calling or not. But I feel there's also lost a lot of wasted time too. I don't think it should take 12 years, 15 years, whatever it is, to be a doctor. I mean, by the time you get out of school, you're in your early to mid 30s with a stack of debt up to the ceiling, and you're just getting started. It's just crazy. But if that's what your calling is, I'm not telling you you're right or wrong either. I'm just giving you my opinions. What this podcast is, it's my take, and you do with it as you will. That's it. I don't know if my opinion has any value to you. If it does, great. If it doesn't, then I'm not trying to prove you wrong. That's not what this is. Just, again, my take. And I kind of veered off here with the whole school thing, but it all goes hand in hand with facing the music. It's especially those of you who are watching this, who I would assume is the vast majority of this audience, did go to school and graduated already, or maybe you're almost there, or you've been out of school for a little while. It's never too late to really make the shift, to make the change, but you have to face the reality that you cannot follow the societal standard that's been placed upon you from when you were conceived. Okay, you can't do anything about what you've done in the past, but you can make that change, man. I mean, because right now you are setting yourself up for a life of just slavery to the workplace. And if that's what you want, if you want security, great. But at the end of the day, I just think you need to be willing to take chances, especially if you're around my age. I'm 22 years old, as I already mentioned before. If you have some sort of safety net, with your home, and you have parents that can provide, or you have the opportunity where you have savings or something, some way where you're willing to take a chance, whether it's going all in or just little increments at a time, dude, you gotta try. I mean, you have one life, one shot to really give it your everything. I mean, and to settle for mediocrity at such a young age. By young age, I'm talking up to your 40s, 50s, whatever it is. I mean, there's really it's never too late, really, to make the change, but you gotta start. You just have to start. And it can be such a passionate subject for me to just get fired up, but I'll just keep my cool here. But you really, really do only have one life. And I know we always talk about it with our friends, family, whoever, but we never take it seriously enough. I mean, you have one shot. One. You don't get to respawn. You don't start over. If you're blessed to see the day, you have to look in the mirror and think that you're capable of greatness, that capable of something more. I mean, if you look at yourself and you just see a mediocre average Joe, I don't understand how you can comprehend that. I really don't. I mean, when you're blessed with one chance, created in the Lord's image, blessed with one shot to make something of yourself, be able to provide opportunity to go out into the world and explore and try new things, and you're okay with just settling with one vacation a year and just slaving until you get to the weekend to numb your reality, I don't understand. How can you be okay with that? I understand there's some of you out there who don't have the chance to you can't take a chance right now because you have responsibility, maybe you have children, you have bills to pay. I get it. But even in that, I think you need to cling on to the slightest bit of hope in pursuing a dream. Even if you only have 30 minutes to yourself every single day, you create a 30-minute window to pursue something small, something for the long run. Just never lose sight. It's when people lose sight of their dreams, they lose sight that it's possible. They lose sight of their trust in God and in making miracles, making something out of nothing, that they just lose themselves entirely and they just spiral downward, and then it's just a life of misery. You have one shot, dude. Come on. One chance to make something of yourself. And I know not too many people watch these episodes, so getting fired up like this may not do me too good, but I really believe out of the few people who do tune in, maybe if you made it this far, we're at the 18-minute and 41-second mark. If you've made it this far, thank you, and I really hope that this resonates with you, because you have one shot, dude. One shot, or gal. Give it your everything. Seriously, please give it your everything. And with number 5, here, this goes hand in hand with facing the music, is longevity. Do not pursue overnight success. Get rich quick schemes are garbage. And even if it does work and you have X amount of zeros in your bank account now that suffice and make you happy, you have zero foundation. You want to build a skyscraper. You're racing with another development company to build neighboring skyscrapers, whoever could do it quicker and more sustainable. Okay, you want to build straight up terrible foundation. It's going to get knocked over by the wind or rain or whatever in a heartbeat, whereas somebody who takes their time, lays down a very sturdy foundation, doesn't matter how long it takes, but it's impenetrable. It's unbreakable when anything comes and beats on it. And that's the whole point. It talks about that in Scripture, about the fool who built his house on sand versus the one who built his house on the rock. That's the whole point. Okay? So please take the time to build the foundation necessary. For me, I wanted to get rich quick for 3.5 years, and all that did for me was Build the Foundation I'm referring to. So it happened, honestly. Oh, geez, sorry. Interesting text there. But no, that's what it took for me. It was trying to get rich quick that actually built the foundation I'm referring to, which is crazy to think about, but it worked, right? At the end of the day, it worked. So, please, understand you have one shot, man. One shot. Build the foundation necessary. Go all in. And I'm telling you, with your faith in Christ, man, there's nothing you can't obtain, nothing you can't have, within reason, of course, things that are for you, for His glory, that'll actually make sense and make you better. But anyways, that being said, I'll wrap it up there. Hopefully some of the stuff made sense. I hope some of these things resonate with you and you can find applicable into your own life, as that's always the point, the whole premise behind these episodes. And yeah, that's why I titled it Stop Trying to Blend In. No reason for it. We're called to be courageous, bold as Christians, and protectors, defenders of others, providing opportunity and whatnot. That's what we are. We're not supposed to blend into a crowd. So please don't get that idea. I think I'll leave it at that. I'll wrap it up there. As always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. By the time you see this, I hope you enjoyed your holiday weekend. And as always, God bless.